Hello out there, my name is Benny and I'm a big fan of TS Node. For me, it's the project to get started with Node.js and TypeScript because Node.js cannot run TypeScript by default. That's where TS Node comes in, and that's why I'm also using it in a lot of my projects. Black Ember has done something very great by delivering this tool and by also maintaining it. Unfortunately, there are quite some issues with ECMAScript modules at the moment, which is why Blake is asking for sponsorship. So if you want to help with that, please sponsor the project. I also sponsored it myself, and I will show you how you can come along the current configuration issues with TS Node. That's also where we will ask ourselves, is this maybe the end of TS Node? Hopefully not, keeping fingers crossed, but I will show you an alternative to TS Node as well. All right, let's get into it. TS Node is a great tool when you want to run TypeScript code seamlessly on Node.js. It has around 30 million downloads per week, and in its peak time even like up to 75 million downloads per week. This is just insane, and it shows how much of value it brings to the community. Its last release though is already a year ago, and there's currently a thread here that writes about an error unknown file extension problem when using Node version 20 with ECMAScript modules and TS Node. There are a lot of comments in here, and it's still like due to date that there are like unresolved issues. And this is what we will talk about in this video, because maybe it's time to switch. Let's check what's going on with TS Node. I prepared an example project with a very simple TypeScript script. So I'm just having here a constant of type string that I log to the console, so we actually get to see something. And then I'm exporting that constant as a named export with the name of Benny. All right, my TypeScript config is also fairly simple. It's the one that gets created when you use the tsc init command, and it has the module resolution set to CommonJS. So we are writing here some Node.js code that uses CommonJS export syntax. And then in the package JSON, I just have two development dependencies. For once, TypeScript, and then TS Node, this one here, both in the latest versions. I also have Node installed on my machine. So let us look at my Node version. It's version 18.18, so let's say version 18. And I have then TS Node because I want to run TypeScript code. Because Node cannot run TypeScript code, if I just have Node here, and I will run the npm start command, then I will get into trouble because the thing here cannot be read. It's TypeScript code. There are no types yet in a JavaScript, so Node cannot interpret this and is confused because it's missing the initializer and it gets the type here. So what to do in this case? In this case, Node is not enough. We need TS Node. And this is a very handy tool that probably some of you have used already. So we just write here TS Node, we point it to our TypeScript file, we go back to the console, we run npm start, and we get a nice output here. The console log statement is shown, so we are happy. That's super cool, and it works nice in an environment where we have Node 18, where we use CommonJS import-export syntax, and that's the way that it was working in the past. I'm saying in the past because we have now more recent Node.js versions, and we also have ECMAScript modules. So that's a big thing. There is a module system now that competes with CommonJS, and that is not just since yesterday, it's since a while. So let's use the ECMAScript module syntax. For this, we just have to set up a type here in our package JSON file, and we set it from CommonJS, which is the default value, to module. Now we set our Node.js project to ECMAScript modules, and let's see what happens if we run then npm start. We will see now a problem here because TS Node for some reason doesn't know about TypeScript extensions any longer. It says unknown file extension TS, although it's TS Node, it should work with TS files. So we need to adjust here our call from TS Node to TS Node ESM. That's an ECMAScript version of TS Node. If I now run npm start again, I won't have the problem within TS Node. I have it now like here, I have a reference error, which says that exports is not defined in an ES module scope. So my package is ECMAScript module. That's why we see the ES module scope here. And there's an export statement. And I'm wondering, why is there an export statement? Well, let's run the TypeScript compiler, npx tsc. That will run my locally installed TypeScript compiler here from that project. And if I'm executing this, I get this main.js file. And here I see that there is this export statement. So how to get rid of it? Well, let's check our TypeScript configuration, because when using ECMAScript modules, we also need to make sure that the module system here in TypeScript is set properly. For this kind of purpose here, I'm setting it to Node 16, which means like in Node 16, TypeScript will see, okay, what is set up here as the type. If it's module, then I will think that this is an ECMAScript module project. Let us run npx tsc again and then check what is the output. Now the output is that we don't have these exports any longer. We have the proper export statement as we would expect it from an ECMAScript module project. All right, let's delete this compiled output to not get confused and stick to our TypeScript file. We wanted to run it with TS Node, and we set already like TS Node properly here as TS Node ESM in our start script. We adjusted the TypeScript compiler config to also be happy with ESM output, and we also defined in our package JSON that we are using ESM because we have type module set. If I now run npm start, I will see that my console log statement is shown, and this thing works again. So that's very nice. TS Node to the rescue. Thank you very much, TS Node. But I have to say that there are still some other implications, because I am running here on Node version 18. I'm using NVM, by the way, to switch my Node versions. That's a Node version manager. And let's go to NVM and say I want to use Node version 20. Now I'm using Node version 2017. And let's see if the start script still works. Ba-boom! Here we have error unknown file extension. So it's again not reading properly our TypeScript file. And that's weird, because it's TS Node, should work with TypeScript files. And it's ESM, should work with the ECMAScript module syntax. But it doesn't. So we need to tweak it. Instead of using now the TS Node ESM binary, we will use just plain Node. But again, plain Node won't work with TypeScript files. So we need to define a loader. We need to tell Node, okay, to load that file, don't use your loading strategy, use the loader that we supply now. And we will set the loader to TS Node, and we will specify that from TS Node we want to have the ESM version. When doing this, we can then run the npm start command, and we will get to see our console log statement. But we also get to see a lot of red text in here, which is also not fun, right? Because it tells us this thing here tells us that the experimental loader may be removed in the future, and we should use register. So this loader flag is an experimental feature, and it might vanish. And I can tell you already that it got deprecated in Node version 20, and it will also be replaced. There is now an import flag, for example. So this is a thing from the past. But this is the only way how we can make it work now with TS Node version 10.9.2. So in order to not get annoyed by this warning message, we can also add another flag, which is called no warnings. If we do this, and if we then execute our start script, then we won't have it. But let's say we use even more features that could trigger warnings, we would not see any warning any longer, because we are now disabling all warnings. So that's why I suggest to use this experimental warning here and only filter these warnings. And we can do that by giving an argument here to no warnings. We can set it to experimental warnings, and now only experimental warnings won't be shown. So if I run npm start again, We won't see any warnings, and that's quite cool. All right, so far so good. The code is running, but what happens if we have a problem in here? Let's say this string here, yeah, this text, I set it to the type of number, which is incorrect. Yeah, we will see the Doom guy here shouting at us. Yeah, we have an error now because the string is not assignable to number. Yeah, we have a string in here, there's a number, that is not okay. Now, if we execute our script, our start script, we would like to see that problem. But instead, we get trigger uncaught exception. So we don't see the stack trace to this code here, because ideally we would have TS Node, and this is also how it was working in the past with Node.js version 18. Yeah, we would get a stack trace pointing to our TypeScript file. Now we just get this error, which could be anything. So how can we now get a proper stack trace? Well, to give you a short answer, with this command alone, we won't get it. We would need to run the TypeScript compiler. And we would need to tell TypeScript compiler, okay, please run, but don't emit any JavaScript code. Yeah, I don't want to have another JS file in here. I just want to use the compiler to do the type checking. If I do that here in my command line, if I run npx, I'm using npx again to execute tsc from here, the bin directory, this one here. So I'm using npx tsc, and I want to I want to not emit JavaScript code, so tsc noEmit, and then I will see the stack trace here. Yeah, I will see that there was something found here. If I click on it, I will be pointed to line number 1, and I see that the type here is improperly set. Great, so we have now to pair our start script with tsc noEmit, and then Node that then uses the TS Node ESM loader, suppresses the experimental warnings, and then runs our script. If I'm doing this now, npm start, I will get stopped at this point because I have a compile error. So if I go here and if I correct that and I run it again, then I will just see the console log statement and I will be happy. That's great. We can even tune it a little more because we now use two tools to do the job. Yeah, to do type checking plus execution. We run tsc and we run TS Node. And TS Node is not working nicely with stack traces. Yeah, you've seen that in version 20 with Node. Yeah, it's not working nice. Let me show you that I'm using Node version 20 because that's important to know. With version 18 it's great, but version 20 not. And I can just say, okay, if you are not good at stack traces and type checking anymore, let's just use you for transpiling. So there is this transpile-only that I can set. So now TS Node will just transpile while TSC will not transpile and just do the type checking. If I run now npm start, I will have the best of both worlds. I will have type checking, I will have stack traces, and I will have the opportunity to run here my TypeScript code without compiling it first and then running it through Node. Because this is always an option, right? You can always say npx tsc, you compile the code, you get plain JavaScript code, then you could say, okay, Node, source, main.ts, and that would also work. But we don't want to run these two commands all the time, so we stick to this big line. And that's exactly the problem, because it's a big line. Yeah, it's taking the whole space here in my editor, and it doesn't look right because it also uses these flags here like loader and no warnings. Yeah, I don't want to rely on a loader which might be removed in the future, because then my whole script won't run any longer, because then there are future Node versions that don't have that flag any longer, and then I can't load the TS Node ESM as I was loading it before, and my whole workflow will be destroyed. So let's see what's the issue. What's going on here? We can look at some TypeScript issues. And unfortunately, this simple browser here doesn't work well with GitHub URLs. So let me get out my real browser to show you what's going on in the TS Node TypeScript community. Here we are in the TS Node project on GitHub, and we see this ESM support ticket filed in April 2020. We have now November 2024. So 4 years already since someone noticed that ESM support is needed in TS Node, and 420 comments have been written since then. Also 138 participants, so it's quite a hot topic. And it's still open. 2 of 4 tasks are done, so the ESM support is not fully there in TS Node. And there's also a sponsorship ticket from Blake. This is the, he is the initiator from the TS Node project, and he is asking for money to fund TS Node in order to rewrite the ESM loading APIs. Why is he doing that? Because we've seen the issues that arose, and we've seen also that issues are different depending on the Node.js version that you use. Yeah, so he also has a ton of work here to do, because you need to support, or you want to support older Node versions when you have such an important library, and you also want to go forward. And we have 2 module systems now, and we have different Node versions, and that all needs to be supported. So I really, really hope that Blake gets the funding. In case you want to chip in, please do so. Yeah, you can also write him an email if you prefer, because it's a very important project and it would be great to see it thriving again. We also get to see a recommendation here, because he also himself says that TSX would be his recommendation in case you're looking for an alternative to TS Node. So this is something that is sparking also my attention, because there's an official ticket here from a month ago to look for sponsorship, and it was an official recommendation to use TSX, which may be the end of TS Node as we know it for ESM. And let's see what are the alternatives. Let's first hop onto TSX. TSX describes itself as the easiest way to run TypeScript in Node.js. So let's see how easy it is. We go on their website, and they tell us that instead of Node and then the JavaScript code, we should just use TSX and point it to the TypeScript code. They also say that they have seamless C, JS, and ESM imports here, so we have probably no issue with running in a project that uses ECMAScript modules. Well, let's jump into VS Code, install TSX, and see what it can get us. Here we are back at our project, and I will install TSX this time with the capital D flag to have it as a development dependency. This will then bring us TSX, we have it here, and we will replace this whole big line with just TSX src main.ts. If I'm doing that and I run npm start, then wow, we will have the console log statement in here, and our code was executed. Super, super, very, very nice, very cool, very short as well. Let's see how it works with CommonJS. So I will remove type module. I will replace the module here from Node 16 to CommonJS, and I will do the same thing. And we'll see that it also gets logged to the console. Great. So it works with CJS ESM, and let's see if it also works when we change the type here, because we had issues with type checking. Let's set it to number instead of string. We'll have a compiler error here, and let's see how it behaves if we run npm start. Strange, right? We have an issue here, and it's still being executed. So let me also change the source code to see if it's really true. Yeah, it's true. It's being executed, although there are errors in the code, and that shouldn't be. And how could it be? Well, if we check the website of TSX, they say that to do type checking, we should use TypeScript, like the plain TypeScript compiler. So it doesn't do type checking automatically. So we have to copy TSC noEmit again, and we have to place it here in our start script. Oh, wrong thing copied, but you get the idea. TSC, noEmit. And then we combine these two commands, we run the start, and then it wouldn't start if we have compiler errors. So now we would need to fix our code, make the Doom guy here happy, and then we can run it and see our code again. So now we have type checking plus transpilation and execution. What we also could hide behind the scenes is the loader flag, so we don't have this loader issue, although we are in Node version 20. And let's see what happens if we do nvm use 18. And if we try to run our script again, then yeah, we see that it also runs in Node 18. So we have Node 18 compatibility, Node 20, ESM, CJS. We have the type checking, we have everything that we wanted, no experimental warnings, super nice, super cool. Just two commands to bring us to the solution.